last week, you and I sat down and spoke about, we were breaking down the 185-pound division, and then the very next day, disaster struck. And the card this weekend with Khamzat Chimaev making his return to the octagon against Robert Whittaker was called off. Khamzat Chimaev violently, and I mean violently, ill. Like and retweet if you've heard those lines before. Seems to be a common reoccurring trend with the friend of the program, Khamzat. So in come Ikram Aliskerov. About as close to a guy as you can get on Khamzat. Also a guy whose only loss in organized mixed martial arts comes to Khamzat Chimaev. So we were saying if Khamzat wins, he probably gets the next shot. This is no longer a number one contender fight, right? If Robert Whittaker wins this fight this weekend, I don't think he's fighting for the belt. And if Ikram wins, obviously he's not. But real quick, what do we think of Khamzat pulling out yet again? Another sickness, not looking. I mean, we've seen there was that thing that went viral of him looking like he got stung by bees. We've seen this picture of him in a hospital bed, not looking good. What are your thoughts on him pulling out again? And obviously, big Ikram stepping in.
Yeah, I don't think it's good. Good for the sport. Another one of the biggest stars in the UFC, although he's not a champion, definitely one of the biggest stars in the sport. And the continued pullouts, the lack of fights, it's not good, dude. And again, we talk about the illness stuff. It's come up time and time again with him to the point where he was ready to retire years ago during the whole COVID thing.
The common cold.
And Dana kind of like convinced him not to, whatever it was. But dude, definitely not good, man. Hopefully he can heal up. Hopefully he can get a fight like sooner rather than later. Like, this is a guy that's truly wasting the prime years of his career. But yeah, on to Ikram Aliskerov, who's stepping in on short notice against a staple of the division and Rob Whittaker for a long time. Dude, I'm excited about this one. Very excited. Ikram, if you've watched his last couple of fights, he's got power, bro. He's pretty complete fighter. I know he doesn't have too many UFC fights, but dude, I'm pretty nervous. If I'm Rob Whittaker, I'm pretty nervous taking this fight. Rob said he didn't even know who he was, but obviously he accepted. He's gonna know who Ikram Aliskerov is here in about
very well.
in less than a week, and I think we're gonna have a great fight, dude. With the damage that Rob has taken over the last few years, I'm starting to lean towards the underdog and the young guy Ikram Aliskerov here. I'm not sure how young he is, but I'm assuming he's younger than Rob Whittaker.
Young in UFC years for sure.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it right there. I'm taking Ikram Aliskerov to get a stoppage win inside of 2 rounds here against one of the better middleweights of the past half decade in the UFC. So I think it could be a huge night for Ikram. If Rob wins, I think we see him in a number one contender fight against Sean Strickland. Strickland's snooze fest performance does not deserve a title shot. I think Dana White will make that clear to him. Or my bad, Mr. Hunter Campbell will make that very clear to him in negotiations come a few months from now. What's your take on the main event here? Who do you have winning?
Yeah, I do kind of think that does. All roads lead if Whittaker wins, him versus Strickland. 2 guys who are going to complain that they get the title shot. And I don't think either of them getting a title shot really, whatever. I could see them 2 fighting each other if they don't just give it to Strickland. But they're definitely not giving it to Rob Whittaker, regardless of what happens in this fight. As you mentioned, Ikram, a very, very scary guy. One of these guys that right when they step into the UFC, everyone knows their name. And it's funny that he's replacing Khamzat because despite their physical similarities, they also fought once before in the octagon. People were saying, oh, could this be like a Pereira-Izzy situation with them both making runs in their weight classes? That's obviously a bit of a stretch, but his only loss in organized mixed martial arts came to Khamzat Chimaev in a different organization before they both stepped in the UFC. This guy, again,
brutal KO, by the way.
Yeah, I was just I was just watching that today, dude. That was not good. But yeah, another one thing we'll say here. I already made this joke to you, but instead of Dana White privilege, we're calling it Dagestani white privilege. What is with these guys, dude? You get a neck beard and you'll fight a number one contender spot. I just got to shave my mustache here, and I'm fighting fucking, I don't even know. I'm fighting Volk next weekend. Throw me in there. Like, I don't get it, dude. Umar, it's the same thing. Doesn't fight anyone ranked. And now he's like in the top 10. Like, that's not how rankings work. And then Ikram, I get that this is on very short notice. He was already fighting the weekend prior. So, like, he was already going to be ready. It made sense. But, like, he obviously does not deserve this shot. And shout out to Robert Whittaker. What a dog. As you mentioned, a former champ, guy he was hand in hand clearing the division out with Izzy in that like Holloway number one contender role where you just kind of knock off challengers. He was almost getting him and DDP fought in that number one contender spot. He was a minus 500 favorite. Looking back, that's not that crazy. I mean, looking back, that's pretty crazy the way that fight went. But Ikram Aliskerov, a combat sambo world champ who comes into the UFC with the neck beard, with these grappling credentials. And then what does he do? 2 first-round knockouts in his first 2 UFC fights. The guy's got power. You said he's a complete fighter. We know Whittaker's anti-wrestling. We know the takedown defense, the low hands. And then when he does get taken down, he does a very nice job getting back to his feet. He's kind of, that's what he's known for, right? So will Ikram be able to get him down? We shall see. It is a similar matchup to Khamzat, so I think he will be ready for the wrestling defense. But again, Whittaker's the better fighter. If he could get it to rounds 3, 4, 5, we were breaking down him versus Khamzat, and we're saying the exact same things, right? Like, Ikram's going to come on strong. We haven't seen the guy pass 3 rounds. In the UFC, we haven't seen him make it, past. They both came very early on in the first round. So if Rob can, survive the early rounds, he can make it go to those championship rounds. He could show why he is a former champion. I just see, again, on paper, I love Rob. I love him for taking this fight, but I don't see it happening. I think Ikram is going to knock him out. It's going to be 3 fights in the UFC, 3 KOs. That's how I see this going. I love Rob, but this one scares me, man. I think people have been talking about Ikram since he entered, and he is a stud. So I guess we're on the same page there. I do think it's going to be a great fight, and I'm very sad Khamzat Chimaev is not in this fight. But yeah, I think it'll be a great fight this Saturday night. A couple of other big fights to break down on this card. Sergei Pavlovich making his return to the UFC octagon against Alexander Volkov. Obviously, we last saw Sergei Pavlovich when he got knocked out in a minute at MSG this past November versus Tom Aspinall for the real heavyweight championship. So we see him return after a brutal knockout. I believe he got TKO'd by Overeem in his debut. I don't know if he went out there, but this was a really bad knockout. So we see him return against Volkov, a veteran in every sense of the word, a gatekeeper in every sense of the word. How do you see this fight going down, Justin?
Dude, I actually go a little back and forth in this one because it's like, I think Pavlovich obviously is the much stronger guy with obviously the more powerful shots, but I could if Pavlovich isn't able to put Volkov away early, I could see Volkov starting to pick him apart in rounds 2 to 3. But like we've seen before, dude, unless you're Mr. Aspinall or unless you're the GOAT John Jones, probably, I don't know too many people that can withstand the surge that is Sergei Pavlovich. Let's go out on a limb here and say Sergei Pavlovich via first round stoppage.
Yeah.
What do you think about this one? I think he'll probably have a little bit too much power in the tank for Volkov, but if it's just going to be a striking match and he can't put him away, dude, I think Volkov, if he gets comfortable, finds a range, uses the kicks, we got an interesting one here.
Yeah, so pardon my phone usage, but Volkov on a little sneaky 3-fight win streak. I think we saw him kind of be a very 500 fighter for a while because he does just fight, he fights the toughest guys in the division, has been in that top 10 forever. And like you said, if he can survive early, I could see him, he's got the range, obviously super tall guy. I could see him picking up Sergei. But I'm a Pavlovich guy. I think that he is the second best heavyweight in the UFC right now. Obviously, number one is Tom Aspinall.
Yep, 1, 2, and then who's the champion?
No, I'm saying overall.
Yeah,
so,
but in the rankings, they do 1, 2. They have a champion. So who is the champion of that division, though, Hebs? I forgot who is the champion.
Tom Aspinall. We got to see the
no. Like if you go on the UFC website, who is the champion?
I don't check that shit, dude. Obviously, why would I? I don't know. You look it up, and I don't know how to use my computer, dude. Look it up, and you can tell me, bro.
The greatest UFC fighter of all time.
I love Pavlovich. Seeing him come out and knock everyone out within like a minute of the first round was a lot of fun. What he did it to. Talk about a couple years ago when like Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa were kind of doing that to everyone, and then he showed up and did it to both of them, both inside 1 minute. Insane. And then he got Blades as well in a very weird fight where Blades was like just content to throw with a guy who was finishing everyone in the first round. But I love Pavlovich. I think he's still in that championship picture. I would love to see him get a win here. I really wanted to see him fight Ciryl Gane. Honestly, I mean, Gane has, he's got like the naked pictures of Dana or whatever. So Gane probably could, if Sergey wins this fight, Gane will probably somehow get this fight. But I'm going with Pavlovich. Again, I'm a big fan of his. He's got a lot of power. I think he'll find his shot, but I could see Volkov, making it a little more interesting than some people may think. Kelvin Gastelum is a friend of the program, but him versus D-Rod, aka I didn't know this fight was happening, unfortunately. KG dog, obviously going with Kelvin Gastelum. This is the first time we'll make mention of it on this podcast, but me and this guy saw Kelvin Gastelum go to absolute war with Israel Adesanya. 2-2 going into the fourth. One of the best fights ever. Absolute war. And then we saw Izzy go on a tear after that. That was, the fight we looked at for a while. That was the closest fight for Izzy. Was begging the question just how good Kelvin Gastelum is. He has not won very much since that night. So, he moved down to 170. He got a win over Chris Curtis. Has he fought since then? He definitely has, but I forget. Oh, yeah. Sean Brady subbed him pretty easily, if I recall correctly. So, who you got, Gastelum or D-Rod? I got to go with KG. D-Rod's going to win, but I want to pick KG. So I'm going to go with KG, Kelvin Gastelum. He'll get it done. He'll win by decision here. D-Rod's going to win, but I got to pick Gastelum. So.
Yeah, I mean, fun little fight at welterweight. I'm glad to see Gastelum fighting at welterweight. He fought at middleweight for the longest because he wanted to eat the what's it called, the flan. He wanted to eat the flan, so could never make the cut. But southpaw and southpaw, yeah, we're looking at a decision here most likely.
Yeah,
I'll rock with Mr. Gastelum to get one over Rodriguez. Rodriguez seems to struggle with. I mean, not that Gastelum's an elite striker, especially at this stage of his career, but he's still a guy that showed he can strike with people like Izzy. I mean, he KO'd Bisping back in the day. Like, I don't know why he didn't make the welterweight move like
earlier.
Yeah, he fought early on. I just don't know why he didn't do it. Like, I don't know why he went to middleweight. He should have just stayed at welterweight. He's definitely good enough to become champion at welterweight. But yeah, I think I'll take him to get the decision win over Rodriguez.
It is a little crazy, like looking back that he did as a 5'9" middleweight. that he got all the way to the title. Crazy. He's not even big. He's not like a big welterweight at all. So, you know, I mean, big in terms of this way, but in terms of this way, plenty big. Bless you. You know, kind of got the ice cream pop type of look. Johnny Walker, Volkan Oezdemir, a fight we spoke about a while ago. You know, both these guys kind of in a weird position. Volkan Oezdemir, I mean, he fights like once every year and a half. I didn't know he was still fighting. Johnny Walker, talk about the definition of inconsistent. He was on a little bit of a run before he got knocked out by Ankalaev, before he found himself in the desert. I don't know. I don't really care about this fight. The winner will fight, you know, whoever loses a big time fight soon, whether that be, I don't even know. But I'll go with Johnny Walker just because I like him. He's got the fun style. He's an interesting cat. Volkan Oezdemir, again, I know the guy was a stud way back in the day, but I did not know he was still fighting. I think the only time, at least recently, or this isn't even recently, I remember Yuri's debut against him when Yuri put his lights out. But that's like all I mean, again, I don't know who has he even fought recently. But yeah, I'm going with Johnny Walker. I think Johnny Walker, I'll go with a decision, but hopefully he gets a little bit of a highlight KO. Who do you got? Who you got in this one?
Yeah, although the fight, it doesn't mean much, I'd say. I agree with you. I like the matchup from like a matchmaking standpoint. I think it's got knockout written all over it. But yeah, back to what you said about Oezdemir, dude. He fights so like randomly nowadays. Yeah. Whereas like when he was on his run, I know it was a while ago. Until DC obviously took him out, but dude, he would go in and like throw heavy bombs, like, and he was finishing guys like. And now he just he doesn't seem to be the same guy. Fights a complete toss up. If Oezdemir comes in and like can actually box with his tight boxing with the overhands, I think he puts Johnny's lights out. But Johnny's will be chin up, straight in the air, throwing some flying knees, hitting some dance moves, and he'll probably land some type of spinning something to get the stoppage. But check that. I'm going Volkan Oezdemir via KO round 1.
Whoa.
And one thing I just want to make note of for all our followers, subscribers, Mr. Hebler here, love him to death. We just, every time Walker does take the octagon, I do like to say that Hebs, along with his roommate, shout out my boy Adam Winter, they did believe that Johnny Walker was the guy to dethrone the GOAT, Johnny Bones Jones. I know he might not say it's true. I just listen. We all make mistakes here. If you want to come clean here, this is the opportunity. Or we can continue to say it never happened. I will give you the floor, Mr. Hebler.
I never fucking said that Johnny Walker. Obviously, I was a Khalil Roundtree guy, so I was devastated on Johnny Walker's run when he was knocking people out. No one ever said, or some people said it, but I wasn't one of them. So fucking check tape, kid. Maybe Winner did, but I just got all my takes from him, so I probably did. All right, I did. Fine, whatever. I thought it. I thought Johnny Walker was going to knock out John Jones, but who didn't, dude? What are we talking about? In 2018, everyone was saying it back in the day. But other than you, when you,
hey, I've had my bad takes.
Yeah, we know.
We have to come. Hey, we have to come clean on our bad takes sometimes.
I know. Trust me. I'll let you know if that ever happens to me. I'll let you know. But I don't see it happening anytime soon with the absolute heater I have been on. Things have been good. I've been sniping left and right, and I will continue to do so this week. Actually, maybe not. I'm not too confident in any of these, but you will see the following week live in studio. I got a good feeling about those predictions. So, yeah, we got a fun one this weekend, UFC Saudi Arabia, and then that'll get us ready for a massive, massive international fight week where Ballin' and Brawlin' we'll be getting some live content out. So, very exciting stuff. Yeah, tune in later this week for some in-person content, and we will see you then. Shout out to the Saudis.
Like, follow, subscribe, Ballin' and Brawlin'. Excited to get the in-house content with my buddy Hebs next week. and we're still undecided on if we are going to make the trip to Viva Las Vegas to see Yuri Prochazka dethrone Poatan. We'll see.